In the dark alleys of Amsterdam, where shadows dance with danger and whispers of treachery linger in the air, there lived a man whose name struck fear into the hearts of even the bravest souls. His name was Johannes Johnny Mieremet, and his story is one of brutality and unrelenting violence. Imagine a world where crime knows no bounds, where every step is a gamble with life and death. In this world, Mieremet rose from humble beginnings as a teenage thief to become the mastermind behind some of the most audacious heists in Dutch history. But his reign of terror was not without consequences. As the bodies piled up and the law closed in, Mieremet found himself locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse with rival gangs and vengeful enemies on his tail. In the gritty underworld of Amsterdam's west, a young Johannes Johnny Mieremet emerged as a force to be reckoned with. Born in 1960, his journey into crime began as a mere teenager, stealing motorcycles and dabbling in small-time robberies. But it wasn't long before he found himself drawn into something bigger, something darker. Enter the Thinkers, a gang notorious for their meticulous planned heists that shook the streets of Amsterdam in the early 1980s. Mieremet, alongside his cohorts, became a key player in his ruthless crew. Their reputation for precision and ruthlessness spread like wildfire through the underworld. From 1982 to 1986, the Thinkers unleashed a reign of terror, committing a staggering 41 armed robberies across the Netherlands and Belgium. No corner was left untouched, as they amassed an estimated haul of 12.3 million guilders, equivalent to a cool $6 million in today's currency. Their methods were brutal, their execution flawless. Each score was well planned, leaving law enforcement baffled and communities in fear. But as swiftly as their star rose, so too did it fall. By the mid to late 1980s, internal strife and external pressure began to fracture the once unstoppable gang. The golden era of the Thinkers was coming to a close, and Mieremet found himself at a crossroads. With the gang's demise looming, he shifted his gaze toward a new horizon, the drug trade. Alongside his childhood friend and fellow Thinker leader, Sam Klaper, Mieremet dove headfirst into the seedy underbelly of narcotics trafficking. Their alliance with notorious crime boss Klaas Bruinsma, who was a pivotal figure in the Dutch underworld, notorious for his drug trafficking and violent tactics, ushered them into a perilous realm of both danger and opportunity. This connection inevitably led them to cross paths with Ljubinko Becirovic, a powerful Yugoslavian mob leader. As their power grew, so too did their list of adversaries. Frictions escalated between Mieremet, Klaper, and Becirovic over control and influence, eventually spiraling into a fatal confrontation that resulted in the assassination of Becirovic. The bloodshed only served to fuel the flames of Mieremet's ambitions, as he and Klaper doubled down on their criminal enterprises. Amidst the chaos and violence, a shadow of uncertainty loomed over Mieremet and Klaper. It began with a daring heist, a brazen act of defiance against the Yugoslavian gang. Mieremet and Klaper seized a significant load of hashish, a move that sent shockwaves rippling through the underworld. The stakes were high and tensions soared as the enraged Yugo mob sought retribution for their stolen goods, but Mieremet and Klaper were not ones to back down. Faced with mounting pressure and the ever-present threat of retaliation, the duo made a fateful decision to seek refuge behind bars. It was a calculated move, a desperate bid to evade the relentless pursuit of their enemies. Armed to the teeth, Mieremet and Klaper made their dramatic surrender to the authorities. Their cache of weapons served as a chilling reminder of the violence that lurked just beneath the surface of Amsterdam's seemingly tranquil facade. The decision to go to prison was a bold gambit, a gamble that would ultimately shape the course of their destinies. For Mieremet and Klaper, it was a necessary sacrifice, a risk worth taking in a deadly game of survival. And so, amidst the escalating violence and simmering tensions, Mieremet and Klaper braced themselves for the storm that loomed on the horizon. Theirs was a world of bloodshed and betrayal, where every move could mean the difference between life and death. In the middle of the chaos of Amsterdam's underworld, Johannes found himself alongside notorious figures like Willem Holleder and Willem Enstra. Their partnership, forged in the shadows of illicit dealings, centered around money laundering and real estate investments. Mieremet, alongside Holleder and Enstra, navigated the murky waters of Amsterdam's property market, using their ill-gotten gains to fuel their insatiable appetites for wealth and power. But amidst the glittering facade of their criminal empire, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Mieremet's debts to the vengeful Yugoslavian gang weighed heavy on his conscience, threatening to unravel the fragile truce that held their worlds together. In a desperate bid to settle his debts, Mieremet turned to Holeder, seeking his assistance in negotiating with the Yugo mob. It was a risky gambit, one that could either spell salvation or seal his fate. Yet even as Mieremet sought redemption, betrayal lurked around the corner. Tensions flared between Mieremet and Holeder over missing funds from their previous drug deals, casting a shadow over their once unbreakable alliance. In February 2002, the simmering tensions erupted into violence as Mieremet fell victim to a brutal shooting. The attack, orchestrated by unknown assailants, left him gravely wounded, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows of Amsterdam's streets. But even in the face of mortal peril, Mieremet refused to be silenced. Faced with the prospect of death, he made a fateful decision: to collaborate with the authorities, exposing the dark underbelly of Amsterdam's criminal elite. In his testimony, Mieremet revealed Willem Enstra's role as the Bank of the Underworld, a damning revelation that sent shockwaves through the underworld. Enstra's empire, built on a foundation of corruption and deceit, crumbled beneath the weight of Mieremet's testimony. The authorities, wary of his motives, chose not to use him as a witness, leaving Mieremet to face the consequences of his actions alone. And so, amidst the swirling currents of betrayal and retribution, Johannes Johnny Mieremet's fate was sealed, and he decided to make a run for it. Fleeing the shadows of Amsterdam's underworld, Johannes Johnny Mieremet sought refuge in distant lands, believing he could outrun the spectre of retribution that loomed over him like a dark cloud. With Belgium and Thailand as his chosen haven, Mieremet embraced the illusion of safety, convinced that he had slipped through the fingers of his enemies. But in the unforgiving world of organized crime, safety was a fleeting luxury, and vengeance knew no bounds. On November 1st, 2005, fate caught up with Mieremet in the most brutal of ways. As he sat in his office, a lone figure stepped through the door, their intentions masked by the shadows. Without warning, the silence was shattered by the deafening roar of gunfire as bullets tore through flesh and bone. Mieremet, once a kingpin of Amsterdam's underworld, now lay broken and bleeding, his life slipping away with each passing moment. The ambush was swift and merciless, a grim reminder of the price of betrayal in a world defined by violence and retribution. As Mieremet breathed his last, his legacy was etched in blood and betrayal, a cautionary tale of the brutal realities of a life lived on the wrong side of the law. In death, he joined the ranks of those who dared to defy the unforgiving forces that ruled the underworld, his name forever synonymous with darkness and despair. From his humble beginnings as a teenage delinquent to his rise as a key player in the Thinkers gang, Mieremet's path was paved with bloodshed and treachery. His alliance with the crime boss Klaas Bruinsma and subsequent conflicts with rival gangs cast him as a formidable figure in Amsterdam's criminal landscape. But it was his partnership with Willem Holeder and Willem Enstra that would ultimately seal his fate. The bitter feud over missing funds and Mieremet's decision to collaborate with authorities led to a fatal ambush on a fateful November day in 2005. In death, Mieremet leaves behind a legacy of brutality and despair. Yet, amidst the shadows of his infamy, Mieremet's legacy endures. His story serves as a stark reminder of the corrosive influence of power and greed, a cautionary tale for those who dare to tread the treacherous path of organized crime. What are your thoughts on Mieremet's story? Let us know in the comments below. If you like our content, don't forget to check out our channel. We've got many more stories from the underworld to share with you. See you in the next one.